When I actually discovered that these were symptoms, I had no idea that these things were symptoms of early pregnancy. So I want to discuss those symptoms with you guys today in case you yourselves are trying for children. So I want to talk about what the symptoms actually are and when I started experiencing them in my overall journey. It's now Sunday and I'm officially in week 5 of my pregnancy, which still feels weird to say, but it's got a lot of happy emotions behind it now, which is nice. Hi, Jinx. Now, obviously, this is my fitness journey as well as my pregnancy journey. Jinx, what are you doing down there? Stop attacking me. You want fuss? I'll give you fuss. Now, obviously, this channel is my fitness journey and it is going to stay that way. But I did also want to vlog my pregnancy journey because it is a massive, massive chapter in my life and it's going to literally change my life forever. I'm no longer going to be a carefree adult. I'm no longer going to be someone who can just up and go out when they feel like it. It's going to affect my job. It's going to affect my future. It's going to affect mine and Jason's relationship, hopefully for the better, which we already have a really good relationship. So it's going to affect my relationship with Jason's family. It's going to affect Jason's relationship with my family. It's going to completely change our lives. And this is one of the scariest things about pregnancy, or finding out that you're pregnant, is your life is never going to be the same again, ever. It is never ever going to be the same again, because you're about to become responsible for a whole nother human being, like fully responsible for the growth and development and well-being of an entire another human being. And that's not daunting to me. That brings excitement to me because I've wanted a child since I was young, like since I was in my early 20s, maybe a bit younger. In fact, no, younger than that. I'd probably say since I was in my teenage years, I knew I wanted a child, but I didn't want one young. I knew that from the get-go. I always knew I wanted to have a family. I always knew I wanted to have kids of my own, but I didn't want to have them while I was in my 20s. That much I did know. I wanted to enjoy my life. I wanted to experience life. I wanted to get all my adventures out of the way first, long before I considered settling down and bringing a new life into this world. But I still hope to have a kid or have a baby or have a child before I turn 35. When I reached my 30s and we weren't ready to have children yet, for multiple reasons. Financially, it just wasn't viable. Where we were living wasn't suitable. Mentally, we weren't ready either. And as we got closer to the age of 35, I started to mentally prepare myself for if I turn 35 and we still don't have children for multiple reasons, because there was multiple reasons. Having children is a very, very, very big life-changing decision. It really is. We thought about it very, very carefully. And I made the decision that if I turned 35 and we still didn't have children, I was going to have to come to terms with the fact that we might never have children. And that was a daunting thought and it was a scary thought, but it's one I was able to make peace with. At the end of the day, I loved my life and I loved everything about my life. I loved my job, I loved my partner, I loved our families, I loved my friends, and I loved the adventures that we get to go on. Yes, life is hard, it's financially difficult right now, it's still financially difficult, and we're about to take on our own house. It's about to get even more financially difficult before the kid even arrives. But like I said, at the age of 35, I said to myself, if I don't have kids before I'm 35, I'm going to come to terms with the fact that I may never have them. Should I have them or should I not, I will be completely comfortable with that idea. And I was. And I still am in some ways, but I'm also so exceedingly happy that nature has decided to bless us with a child. And considering we have a lot of people in our lives who are around our age that really struggled to conceive. One of them being my sister, another being my friend Simone. It took her over a year to conceive. And my friend Vicky, who battling her own struggles with fertility and has been trying for several years. So the fact that we've managed to get pregnant naturally with very little effort, I have to say, I'm grateful for. I am so exceedingly grateful for. And you know what? I came on here today to actually discuss why I thought I was pregnant in the first place, and I've completely gone off tangent because when I first found out I was pregnant, I didn't suspect I was pregnant until the day that I tested. The reason I didn't think I was pregnant is because I was experiencing multiple symptoms, and of all these multiple symptoms, I was knocking them away as other medical issues that I have repeatedly experienced over my years. So because it was stuff that happens to me on an almost daily basis anyway, because of my medical issues, I don't like calling them medical issues, medical challenges, let's call them that. Because of my medical challenges, I've experienced the majority of the symptoms on an almost daily basis for most of my life. So when I started experiencing pregnancy symptoms, I didn't realise they were pregnancy symptoms. I just knocked them off as something else. When I actually discovered that these were symptoms, I had no idea that these things were symptoms of early pregnancy. So I want to discuss those symptoms with you guys today in case you yourselves are trying for children and want to know the early signs. So I want to talk about what the symptoms actually are and when I started experiencing them in my overall journey. So this list of symptoms is provided by the NHS, which is the main governing body of medical things here in the UK. Now, the very, very first symptom I actually got as part of my pregnancy journey was sore breasts. And this is completely normal for me. I always get very sore or very tender breasts about a week before my period is due to start. So I didn't think anything of it. It tells me that my period is due on in about a week's time. It's a timer for me, so to speak. I started getting tender breasts on the Monday. My period at the time was due on the Friday. So it was a couple of days behind, but I didn't think anything of it because I have a slightly irregular period. It can span anywhere from 34 to 36 days. Sometimes it's as early as 30 days, sometimes it's as late as 40 days. So I didn't think anything of it for it to be a few days behind. The next symptom I got was the most obvious one, my missed period. My period was due on the Friday and it never arrived. I started getting the cramps and the aches and the pressure to suggest that it was coming, but it never arrived. And those aches and those cramps and those popping sensations continued into Saturday, into Sunday, into Monday, into Tuesday. And again, I didn't think anything of it because it's not abnormal. It is not unusual or not uncommon for my period to be a few days late. I believe at the time my period had been up to 6 days late in the past. So I didn't think anything of it. It's only been a couple of days. It's only been about 4 or 5 days. Maybe it's nothing. The next symptom I started to notice was my nipples. Sorry for all the gentlemen out there. This is not in that nature. This is general information. I remember looking in the mirror after, I can't remember if I got changed after work or whether or not I'd got back from a run or I think it was when I got back from the falconry last weekend, I can't remember. But I remember getting changed and looking in the mirror and something looked different about my chest. Something looked different about my boobs and I could not for the life of me work out what it was. But something looked different, something looked off. And it's only once I looked up the symptoms I realised that my nipples had gone darker and ever so slightly larger. Only ever so slightly, very mildly. I did notice they were a bit different. That's the only way I can describe it. They just looked different. They didn't look the same. And looking back and looking at photos of me in the past, because I used to take photos of my body and my figure to see how my figure was changing. I don't really do that anymore. At some point I did take a full body shot of myself just to get an idea of what my body looks like and to keep eye on any abnormalities like changes in moles and things like that. And I noticed that my nipples had changed. They had changed in colour. They had gone slightly darker and they were ever so slightly larger. So that was the next symptom I noticed. And that happened on Sunday. So 2 days after my missed period. Again, I didn't think anything of it because I wasn't 100% sure. I could only say that I looked different. Something looked off about my chest. So I just ignored it and thought I was seeing things. The next symptom I noticed was peeing more frequently. Now, if you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I was recently diagnosed this year with an overactive bladder about 4 or 5 months ago, and I've had an overactive bladder for pretty much my entire life. However, thanks to the NHS guidelines and the training and everything that the nurses gave me at my last appointment, I have been starting to get control of it and I've been able to manage it a lot better. However, since about, again, Sunday, Monday, I was starting to lose control again. Urination became very, very, very frequent. It became very urgent again. And I got very confused. I'm like, why is this suddenly happening again? I was getting in really good control of this. I was really cutting down. Why is it suddenly misbehaving? And again, I put it down to my overactive bladder. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought maybe I'm having a few bad days and I just need to refocus my efforts. I don't know, but because I already have an overactive bladder, I didn't think too much of it when I started peeing more frequently. Then on Monday, I believe it was, I woke up and noticed I was really bloated. Really, really bloated. And I had to think back because with me having ulcerative colitis, it is not uncommon for me to bloat sometimes if I've eaten one of my allergy foods or eaten one of the foods that triggers my ulcerative colitis. So I had to think back and I couldn't think of anything that could have caused the bloating. But because it is a common symptom of my ulcerative colitis, I didn't think anything of it and just thought, well, maybe I did eat something I just didn't realise, or maybe there's something in one of the ingredients when I went out and had a meal with Jace or his family. I don't know. I can't think of anything, but I must have eaten something that's caused this bloating. Little did I know it wasn't food that was causing the bloating, because bloating is also another common symptom of pregnancy. At this point, by Monday, I was still cramping. I was still getting period cramps. I was still getting the aches to suggest that my period was on its way. It felt weird that the period cramps was happening, but there was no period. But again, it wasn't uncommon for my period to be up to 6 days late. Now, by Monday, I was starting to get a little uncomfortable, let's say that, about the fact that my period was late. I was getting a bit uncomfortable. Something didn't seem the norm for a late period for me. And by Monday, it had been 7 days since my breast started getting sore. So it was unusual and weird that my period still hadn't arrived by Monday. But again, it's not uncommon for my period to be late. The thought and the theory that it might not be a late period started to creep in around Monday. That was when it really started to creep in of, what if it's not a late period? Now, I hadn't clicked onto the other symptoms yet. I had no idea the other symptoms existed, but that's when the doubt, the possibility started creeping into my head. The other symptom that I got on Monday was fatigue. And my God, even now I look back at my old video. I can't remember what vlog number it is because I've technically not made that vlog yet, but I remember watching a snippet of the clip because when I was organising all my video files. And it was on the Monday or Tuesday that I recorded this video clip, and I was exhausted. I was literally exhausted. I was yawning every couple of minutes. I was falling asleep. I was drowsy. I was shattered. I was really struggling to record the video because I was so tired. The fatigue started on Monday. It started getting worse on Tuesday, and it stayed bad Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But not only did I have fatigue, I was also experiencing insomnia. Did you know insomnia is a sign of early pregnancy? I didn't. Again, if you've watched the rest of my channel, or if you've watched previous videos, you probably know that I have had bouts of insomnia several times, especially over the last 3 years. Insomnia was nothing new to me. The fact that I experienced insomnia Sunday night and then Monday night and then Tuesday night was neither here nor there. I was like, okay, I'm just having a bout of insomnia. And because I've had a bout of insomnia, that must be why I'm fatigued. That must be why I'm tired. On top of that, it could be my iron deficiency anemia playing up, because iron deficiency anemia causes extreme fatigue and can quite literally cause me to crash. Not in a car, like crash out on a sofa type thing. So fatigue being a thing, or for me to be fatigued and to be tired when I was experiencing insomnia and potentially an iron deficiency flare-up, didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, I'm tired, I'm extremely tired, but I'll just have to burn through it like I usually do when I'm fatigued or tired, when my iron deficiency is playing up, or when I'm having a bout of insomnia. I didn't think anything of it because these were all symptoms that I had experienced at some point on a daily basis since I actually, started my life. And finally, the last thing I noticed was on about Tuesday or Wednesday, my food started to taste different. I couldn't explain why it tasted different, but it did taste different. There was something about it that just tasted not the same at all. I can't really explain how else to describe it. It just wasn't the same. Things that used to give me flavour suddenly had no flavour. Food that was bland, which I used to eat so easily because I got brought up on bland food. Sorry, Mum. But she didn't. My mum never used spices or anything because I struggle to eat stuff like that. So I got brought up on bland food. So I'm used to bland food. I'm used to the war meals. The fact that bland food suddenly tasted blander and not enjoyable to eat at all was weird. Like really weird. Like why am I struggling to eat this food that I have been eating my entire life? Why does it suddenly taste unenjoyable. I don't get it. I got very, very confused by that. And again, all this was taking place Monday, Tuesday, and the start of Wednesday. Now on Tuesday, I finally decided to tell my best friend about my missed period. But I was scared to tell her because she's been pretty desperate for me to have a child after just having one herself, and really, really wanted to share the experience around the same time as one of her friends. So she was really eager for me to have a kid, and I didn't want to get her hopes up. At the same time, I didn't want to get my own hopes up in case it was just a late period. And it was after talking to my friend that she actually said, you do realise there's other symptoms of pregnancy, like the fatigue and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should look into that. And that's when I actually found the NHS website stating what the early symptoms of pregnancy actually are. And that's when I realised I was experiencing over half of them. Over half of the symptoms of pregnancy. And I was just battering them away, thinking, it's my iron deficiency anemia. Congestion, that was another one. I've had a very runny and congested nose since about Saturday, Sunday. And I battered it off to hay fever because I do suffer from hay fever, and it's hay fever season. The pollen's going nightmare. And I still think it is partially down to hay fever. But I knocked off the congestion as hay fever, the fatigue as iron deficiency, and insomnia. The insomnia as just a bout of insomnia. Batted off the period as just being late because my period has been that late before. The sore breast just as a sign that my pregnancy was coming, etc, etc. I had an excuse for every single symptom because I have a medical conditions or medical challenges that cause every single symptom. But after I realised that I was actually experiencing multiple of these symptoms all on the same day and that they could all potentially be early signs of pregnancy, that was when it really started to play on the brain. My period again was late on the Friday, and it was the Tuesday where my brain really started to go, hang on a minute, there's too many boxes being ticked here. There's too many similarities. And yes, it could still be all these things. And I was even saying to Jason at this point knew that my period was late, but he also didn't think anything of it because, again, he knows I have a slightly irregular cycle, so he knew I could have just been late. And we'd actually gone for a meal with his parents on Tuesday night. And when we got home, or on the way home, we started to talk about the fact that if I am pregnant, how we're going to feel about it, what we're going to do. And it was really playing on my brain. The thought that I could be pregnant was really playing on my brain at this point, both for positive and negative reasons, because I loved my life. I enjoyed my life, and we're still in the process of buying our first home. So I was scared. I was really scared that things were going to change so dramatically, and I had no control over that. But at the same time, I was excited because we are pregnant and we're finally having a kid. Oh, so many mixed emotions. So many mixed emotions. Go watch my video from a few days back if you want to know my exact emotional reaction to the whole scenario. Anyway, Wednesday finally came around, and I'd said to myself on Tuesday that I was going to wait till Friday, because Friday would be the longest my period had ever been delayed. But my brain was playing so many games and tricks and somersaults, and anytime I had a symptom, anytime I started feeling fatigued, anytime my nose got congested, anytime I started having constipation, because constipation was another symptom I was experiencing, which again is one of the symptoms of ulcerative colitis when I have a big flare-up, so didn't think anything of it. But anytime I had constipation, anytime I needed to go or lost control of my bladder because my bladder was on overdrive, the fact that my breast was still sore, the fact that I was still cramping, the fact that I had so many of these symptoms on this list that weren't going away. And the thought played on my brain all day. All day while I was at work. I was struggling to focus on my dog walks because the thought was playing on my brain so much. So I made the decision that after work on Wednesday, I would go to the shop and just say I need to get some ginger or maybe some veggies for the girls. I was going to use an excuse to go to the shop. So I went to the shop, got the bits that I needed to get, and then went down the aisle for pregnancy tests. And let me tell you, that was terrifying. Again, I've discussed all that in a previous video, so I'm not going to go into detail. But I went down the aisle to get a pregnancy test. I came home, and usually they tell you to do the test first thing in the morning when your urine is the strongest. But I thought, well, stuff it, I want to know now. But at the same time, I don't want to know, but I want to know now. So I took the test when I got home, and that's when I got the answer. That all the symptoms I was experiencing, the fatigue, the tiredness, the insomnia, the bloating, the constipation, the sore breast, the cramping, the changes in food and everything else was all because I was pregnant. And that still feels strange to say because we've not had our first appointment yet with the nurse to confirm everything. So it still feels a bit weird to say, but that is what led me up to finding out I was pregnant. And all the symptoms I batted away thinking they were something else. Absolute madness. Absolute madness. On the plus side though, some of the symptoms of pregnancy is obviously morning sickness and nausea, and thankfully I haven't had that. I have had a slight bout of dizziness. I did notice on, I think it was the Tuesday before I tested and the Wednesday morning, that there was a couple of times when I stood up and felt a bit woozy, but I've not had any morning sickness so far. Knock on wood. I've also not had any spotting. I've had no spotting whatsoever. And I haven't noticed any changes to my hair. Apparently you're meant to get thicker, shinier hair when you're pregnant, and so far it's the same old hair. Granted, it needs a wash. I just wanted to share that just in case anyone else was going or trying for a child or going through similar symptoms and wasn't too sure. And it's also a memory I want to keep for myself, just in case we ever decide to go for a second. Now I need a reminder of what all the symptoms were and what I kept brushing them off as. One of the other reasons that I actually wanted to discuss the symptoms today is because, as I said, this is my fitness journey channel. And I will be continuing my fitness journey now for pregnancy, but I will be continuing my fitness journey in this way, as well as discussing what is happening to me physically with the pregnancy and everything. And the reason I wanted to pull up the symptoms is because the fatigue is real. Like, I mean, the fatigue is real. I've been exhausted the last few days. And like I said, while I've been at work, I've been battling through it and not thinking anything of it because it's something I'm used to. I've been used to battling fatigue my entire life. My whole plan on Friday was to get home from work, do a bit of exercise, and then have my tea and carry on and not think anything of it. And as soon as I got home from work, I had to go upstairs and I napped. I fell asleep. I was gone. And I slept for a good couple of hours, which was nice considering, like I said, I've been experiencing insomnia since Sunday night. So at this point, I think I'd gone nearly 5 days of insomnia. So I'm not surprised that I fell asleep, but I thought it's okay, it's fine, it's Friday night. I'll just let myself nap, have a nice evening, and then I'll focus on doing my video editing and my exercise and everything on Saturday, which was yesterday. And my body was like, right, you've got a day off. I'm taking full advantage of this. And I literally, it was a nightmare. In a good way nightmare, but it was a nightmare. I literally woke up, came downstairs after a good night's sleep. I finally had a good night's sleep, mostly good. Still a little bit of waking up, but very little. I finally had a good night's sleep. I woke up, I came downstairs, I got breakfast, and then by 9 o'clock, because I wake up about 7, about 9 o'clock, I was shattered. I was falling asleep. So I went upstairs, I got my parrots out of bed, brought them down, and then just went straight upstairs and went and had a nap for a couple of hours. Woke back up again, came downstairs, got myself something to eat, got ready to start video editing or to get changed to actually do some exercise. And by 3 o'clock, before I had a chance to do anything, I was falling asleep again. So I went back upstairs and I tried to nap, but I really couldn't. Like, my brain was on, it was active, but my body was shattered. So I just lay in bed, semi-awake for a good couple of hours. And then I woke back up and it was, I think, about 5:30, nearly 6 o'clock. Jason was on his way home. Came downstairs, got my tea, mulled about, did a lot of video editing because I had a lot of video editing to get done yesterday and I didn't have a lot of time for it. So I literally smashed through video editing and then went to bed. And I woke up this morning. So I've had 2 days of almost pure sleep. The fatigue is real. The tiredness is real. And again, I'm used to fatigue. I'm used to battling through it. But I have been told by several people, if your body starts feeling fatigued and telling you need a nap, you need to listen to it on this occasion because your body is telling you it needs to focus its energy on what's going on down below. That has been my weekend. It's been a weekend of sleep. And we actually have a very busy day today. I need to finish my breakfast. And then we need to go Costco, and then we need to go to Decathlon, and then we need to do a load of other bits and bobs in between because Jason is starting a new course tomorrow and he's abandoning me to go and do this course. I'm gonna have 4 days on my own. So we've got a busy day, so I'm gonna leave you guys here. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that this has been educational or informative in some way, shape or form. I promise it's not all going to be about pregnancy, but please understand I am going to try and do a lot of exercise. I am going to try and get fit and healthy or stay fit and healthy through my pregnancy. But the pregnancy is now a big part of my life and it is a big part of my journey, and the symptoms are something I am going to be battling with. It's one of those, don't expect miracles. I certainly can't expect a miracle, but I'm creating a miracle. Oh, my brain is going in so many different places. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to hope you guys have a good day. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend. As of tonight or maybe tomorrow, I do hope to try and start getting some exercise in, but we'll see. We will see. If nothing else, I want to go on a run either tonight or tomorrow, depending on my energy level. Oh my gosh. If I can stay awake long enough. It must be coming up to 9 o'clock. What time is it? Yep. 8:30. I'm due for a nap. My body's getting tired around 9 o'clock at the moment. It's like clockwork almost. Anyway, I am going to leave you guys there. Again, I think I've said that about 5 times now, so I'll ignore that. Thank you for watching, guys. If you want to follow me on my pregnancy journey or my fitness journey post-pregnancy, post-birth, post-baby, and me trying to get into shape as a postnatal mum, then please give us a like, give us a follow. And no, don't worry, this channel is not getting turned into a pregnancy baby family channel. It is still going to be very much fitness based. It's just that my fitness has taken a different turn, or an unexpected turn.